Alright, welcome back guys. So in this video, we're going to now go into a little more detail, not too much detail, but a little bit of detail, right, about what actually causes the mind to become quantized, right? So in order to actually control the subconscious mind, you need to control the window in which it's able to express itself a certain way, and more specifically, you need to be able to actually be able to control how it quantizes itself, because the quantization determines what you can actually do with the subconscious during that window. So, like this bullet point says here, or the star point, I guess, your intention is actually what quantizes the subconscious. So it's very important. So intention is basically, most people would think of intention as when you have a certain thought and you just hold the kind of idea that, or you express the thought that you're going to accomplish something, or something's going to happen. We'll talk a little more about intention in the next chapter. But for now, basically it's use the everyday kind of understanding what intention is, and you could say your intention quantizes the subconscious mind. Now, intention, probably should be clear here, is a property of the negative mind. So you can basically, you know that by the properties of the negative mind. You can express intention anytime you want, for anything that you want, as much as you want to. You know what I mean? So that's those parameters are those properties describe the negative mind. So in other words, the relationship between the negative mind and positive mind is that the negative mind is actually like the master or the commander, right? And the subconscious mind is the servant, right? So, and that's important. The conscious mind is basically the one that drives the ship or guides the ship. I don't know what the saying is. It's something like that. But it basically leads the subconscious mind, or steers the ship, I think is what I was trying to say. So it's very important. The conscious mind, or the negative mind, is the one that kind of controls everything, and the subconscious follows behind. So if you, let's say I hold a specific type of intention, right? Well, I'm not going to go into it now. I could go into more detail, but that's for later chapters. For now, all you need to know is that when you hold an intention, that causes a change in your subconscious. And the change is basically what's going to determine how it becomes quantized. Now, this part's important too. So the subconscious, even though your intention quantizes the subconscious and influences it, the subconscious still has some freedom to think its own thing and do its own thing, even after it's quantized by your intention. So what that basically means is that, I think I said it last video, so you have your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, right? They both express different types of thoughts, and they're always thinking concurrently with each other, right? So when you hold an intention, right, your subconscious, it basically becomes confined and limited. So like I said, it doesn't have free will. It becomes confined in what it's able to think. And so it can only think something based on whatever intention you're holding. It's confined. But even after it's confined, it still has some degree of freedom within that confinement. So basically, in other words, the intention, your negative mind, the intention from your negative mind, it doesn't fully control your subconscious, right? It influences it, but very strongly, but it doesn't fully control it. We'll talk more about that later. I think it's in chapter 8, because that's going to be important, because that you have to basically recognize that to learn how to control your subconscious. It took me years to realize that. I was always thinking that I could control my subconscious solely through my conscious mind, which is not true. You just have to get used to thinking with both. But the conscious mind still is very important, because that limits the subconscious, which you need first, which is quantizing it. And then you kind of focus on the thinking with your subconscious mind part. So this is important. And then this last principle basically is just the idea. Basically it says two minds must work together to do what the other mind cannot. So that basically is the principle of kind of what I was saying. That basically now that we've gone over the two minds, the negative mind is the part of your mind that has, on top of awareness, it has free will. So it has the ability to choose freely. It's not confined. It can think whatever it wants, choose whatever it wants, and do it as much as it wants to. And it also has rationality. So it can analyze things. It can think of what the best option is. It can weigh choices, imagine different possibilities, and make a choice on what the best thing is, which is very important. The subconscious mind doesn't have that. We're going to talk more about how the subconscious thinks and what types of thoughts it has, but for now, you just know the subconscious mind, when you're thinking with the subconscious mind, definitely does not have any of that. So it doesn't have free will, like I said, it's quantized, and it doesn't have rationality. So the subconscious relies on the conscious mind or the negative mind for those qualities. So it relies on the conscious mind for basically some form of tacit freedom, because it doesn't have free will, and it also relies on the conscious mind for rationality, because it doesn't have rationality either. It can't analyze things like the negative mind can. So it needs the conscious mind to do that. But the conscious mind doesn't have what the subconscious mind has, which we haven't really got into a lot of it yet. But one good example is emotion, right? So if the conscious mind wants to feel some type of emotion, it can't just do it anytime it wants to, as much as it wants to, right? Because that comes from the subconscious mind. So it's limited. You can't express emotion in the same way you express free will, because it's from the subconscious mind. So, but the conscious mind will still want, at some point, for example, there's experience an emotion. So it needs a subconscious mind. In other words, the subconscious mind has all the energy. It has more things, but it has emotion and it has energy. So in a sense, it has all the power. You know what I mean? Because as the subconscious energy grows higher and higher, that's when the expression of subconscious thought really starts to get, well, for now, we'll just say it gets very interesting. You know what I mean? And so there'll be many times when the conscious mind will want something from the subconscious mind, and it'll want it to express a certain thought at very high energy. But it can't control it that way. So both minds need each other, right? Both minds have to work together to do it. One mind, the other mind cannot. And when they do work together, that's when you really unlock the full power of your mind. You know, and so that's basically just a principle I thought was important to say. But yeah, as you get used to controlling, hold on, let me put that back in there. You know, we're almost done with chapter 1 anyway. But as you get used to controlling your subconscious, you're kind of going to see that principle more and more. You're going to get used to kind of knowing where the conscious mind ends and the subconscious mind begins. And you're going to get used to knowing, like, when you want to do a certain thing, you're going to know exactly, like, kind of what to do with the conscious mind and what to do with the subconscious mind, right? You're going to start to think in terms of your two minds, which is the proper way to do it. And you're going to really be able to reach the full power of your thoughts. So I think that's pretty much it. This section wasn't too long. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about, the next section of chapter 1, we're going to talk about how the subconscious actually influences the conscious mind. Because in the same way your intention affects the subconscious also affects the conscious mind, which can have an effect on intention. So we'll talk about that next video, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.